Well, hello everyone, and I'm really, this is an understatement, but I'm so glad to have Julie Harris back with me on the show. And Julie is no stranger to this podcast, and also Julie has her own podcast, Therapy for Your Money. So check that out. But Julie, welcome again to the
Thanks for
podcast.
having me. Always a pleasure to hang out with you, Gordon.
Yeah, the same. I can say absolutely the same. So, for those that might not know you, Julie, tell them a little more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed.
Yes, I am Julie Harris. I am first and foremost an accountant. I'm a lover of numbers. Numbers are my jam. I like to say that my superpower is seeing the story within the numbers, right? So if I'm looking at a profit and loss, I can see the story of what's happening in a small business. And specifically, I work with therapists in private practice. That's what my team and I have done for almost 10 years now. And so we've had this really, really unique view under the hood of thousands of private practices, and so we know what makes them tick or not, financially at least,
Hmm.
and what makes a practice work. So because of that work in my accounting firm, I've also written Profit First for Therapists, which guides folks to implement Profit First in their private practice. And now today, I'm happy to share the Profit First for Therapists workbook, which is really a companion to the original book. I left nothing out of the original book, but there's still so much granularity in actual implementation. So I wanted to
Hmm.
have an additional guide that really helped people work through kind of step by step, lots more examples, troubleshooting, all kinds of different special situations. I wanted to be able to cover that. And that's what I did in the workbook here.
Yes, yes, and Julie was so kind to send me a copy of it as well, and I've been going through it. And folks, it is, I mean, for what she's charging for this, I told her earlier she needs to charge more for it, but this book is packed full of just so many great ways to think about your finances. And just like you said, Julie, it really does walk you through step by step of how to think about profit first and all of that. And as I tell people that I consult with, one one of the first things you need to do when thinking about the financial side of your private practice is read Profit First for Therapists, because that's going to give you the foundation to just make all of it fit together and make your practice sustainable for the long haul. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Well, and
thanks
there,
for putting this together.
of course. The interesting thing is Profit First as a system, right, is a cash flow management system. But and sometimes it might feel secondary to a business, right? Well, I need to figure out the other things before I figure out the money. And that's often not the case, right? Because for most of us here in sitting in reality, a practice is something that needs to generate money for you to live, right? You're not doing it for most people just for fun or as a hobby. You're doing it to sustain your life. It needs to generate cash to pay you. And so when you're setting up the financial pieces properly from the beginning or from wherever you are at any point in your private practice, like you are set up for success, for a sustainable practice, one that can pay you, one where how much do I need for taxes? How much can I afford to pay my team? When should I add leadership? What about admin, right? Like you have kind of a blueprint financially for a practice and what is normal and what's not as well, right? Because that's one of the questions that we get so much in my accounting firm is like, what are other people doing? What's normal? And so Profit First can really give you a framework for based on the size of your practice, right? How much money is generating, how many team members are in it. What can
Hmm.
you generally expect? Is your profit good or could it be better? Right? Like,
Hmm.
is what you're expecting from your practice reasonable, or are you expecting something that your practice is not capable of generating for you? It can help you
Right.
answer all of those pieces. Yeah.
Right, right. And the thing I love about Profit First, and for those of you that might not be familiar with the term Profit First, it's based on the original author of the book Profit First, Mike McAllowitz's book, where it's really a groundbreaking, in my mind, revolutionary way of
Yeah.
thinking about finances and just accounting and all of that kind of thing. It's really an allocation system. In other
Yes.
words, rather than looking at trying to figure out a budget based on dollar amounts, you base it on percentages.
Hmm.
And when I grasped that concept, that's kind of like, oh man, this is so much easier way to think about it. And then just also having multiple buckets that you put things into to protect your practice and also make you profitable. So I mean, it's just yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the basic premise is that for most small businesses, right, you have income coming in and then profit is a leftover, right? Income minus expenses equals profit. That's the traditional accounting equation. And profit
Mm-hmm.
is an afterthought. It's like if there's something left over, that will be what I will pay myself from, right? For most
Mm-hmm.
small businesses. And so within Profit First, we turn that upside down and we say income minus profit equals expenses. We're building in money for you as the owner, some profit, money for taxes. We're building all of those pieces in so that then you have a number for expenses and you generally know here's what I have available to me to spend, right? Because I think that's a big conundrum for so many business owners is like, how much should I be spending on software or rent or all of these other things? Like you're just kind of guessing. And so we take a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that guessing out by saying you can still use your values, right? If you have this much allocated to payroll, for example, you can decide like how does that get split? Is it a few people making more money and then a couple of interns? Is it everyone getting the same, right? Like you can still do things that are consistent with your values and your priorities in the practice, but it's still giving you some guidelines, right? And so some practices might decide I'm going to spend more in payroll and less in overhead because I'm going to spend more in payroll. I have to be really lean over there. And that's a choice that you can make, right? But it's a
Mm-hmm.
choice. It's not something that just happens to you. It is an intentional choice that you can make. And so you've got those guardrails that help you stay in ranges that are going to make the practice healthy ultimately.
Right. And it's the whole what Parkinson's law principle, and that
Yes.
you will whatever you set your expenses at, you will fill that. And so you
Yes.
limit what you fill it to.
Yeah. So the Parkinson's law says what the demand for something will rise to meet its availability, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
when you think of it
Right.
from from money, if you have a bunch of money in your bank account, you're going to figure out a way to spend it most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? For most people,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the case. Not everyone, but most people, including me, right?
Oh, sure.
Like
Sure.
include I'm an accountant. I can look at all the reports, but I don't leave a whole lot of money in my checking account. I just don't
Mm-hmm.
personally and
Mm-hmm.
in the business because like it's
Yeah.
just easy for that to erode over time. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's great. That's great. So, with the workbook, you want to maybe kind of take us through, Julie, kind of how you've got it broken down within the workbook. I was just looking over, yeah, just before we started talking again, and there are, let's see, there are 10 chapters,
Hmm.
and the book is just absolutely full of worksheets and formulas and ways for you to reflect and write down your ideas and talking about the emotional side of money and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
tell us how you kind of got it broken down.
Okay. So I go over the basics of Profit First, right? It's meant to be a companion to the book, but I imagine some people will come to the workbook having read Profit First for Therapists maybe a little while ago, right? The book has been out for over 2 years. Maybe you read it a while ago. So just quick refresher so that we're all on the same page. And then I actually changed the order around a little bit. In the original book, I do have a lifestyle worksheet that helps you kind of think about what kind of life do you want? But it's in the
Mm-hmm.
later chapters in the original book. And in the workbook, it comes first because a lot of folks
Mm-hmm.
were not doing it. But I think it's an important piece to kind of think about what kind of life are you building? And there's no right or wrong answer here, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
what is it for you? What do you need to contribute to your household? Some people are going to be in a single income household, others a two income household. Like your needs are going to vary depending on the phase of your life as well. And that's okay. And you should build a business that's going to support that. So I start there where we can start thinking about what do you need personally to be okay, right? Without the context of the business in mind. So that way we can work on reverse engineering a business that will support that, right? And it might be kind of
Right.
the minimum you need, or it might be the nice to have, right? And we can work towards that. And it's very possible that the business is not able to do that right now. But then you
Mm-hmm.
have some cold, hard numbers that tell you, like, this is what needs to be true for what you want to be possible. And Gordon, I just feel like there's so much relief in that, right? And just
Yeah.
knowing it's not this like
Right.
fictional imaginary thing that might be
Uh-huh.
happen at some point in the future. Like you can put some numbers, clinicians in number of sessions, like you can know exactly what needs to be true for
Mm-hmm.
this life that you imagine and want to be possible. And I think that's just a gift and a burden removed, right? To know that.
Mm-hmm.
Another
Yes.
thing I put into the workbook is a new method for completing the instant assessment. I think you know this, but just in case your listeners don't, after I launched the book in May 2023, my team and I also launched a membership group called Profit First Academy, where
Mm-hmm.
for folks who want more support, right, want to work directly with my team and be able to have one-on-ones with my team and workshops with me, they can work with my team directly to support Profit First Academy. So within that academy. And there's just a lot of lessons learned. We've had hundreds of people come through the academy since then. And just we've learned a lot about where people get stuck, right? And so that was one of my goals with the workbook is where people getting stuck and how can we help get them unstuck and keep them moving within the assessment, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
one of the issues was a lot of folks did not have reliable financials, right? Because I came at it from the perspective of my accounting firm. When we're
Mm-hmm.
implementing Profit First with our clients, of course they have reliable financials. They're working with us.
Right.
But a lot of people out there, they may be just so early in their practice, they haven't started working with an accountant, they're doing it on their own and their numbers aren't quite accurate, right? Like they were making mistakes and it's not a big deal, but they were just struggling with that. So I go over a new way of completing the instant assessment just with bank and credit card statements. So you don't even need a profit and loss and a balance sheet. You can just
Mm-hmm.
use your statements to complete the instant assessment. So just kind of making it that much easier. And I have two examples with like a fake bank statement going through line by line how to do that, right? I wanted to really get nitty gritty here.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, yeah, the thing is like people hear from me and they hear from you. I know too, Julie, is the importance of knowing your numbers. And I think a lot of times people are really intimidated by that, but really it's just a matter, like you said, just looking at your bank statements, looking at where the money is going in, where it's coming out, and just understanding how all that works together.
Yeah. Yeah. And the bank statements don't lie, right? Where your profit and loss might, or it might be hiding some things, right? Especially if you forgot some stuff or made a mistake, but the bank statements are going to tell you, like, here's exactly what happened last month, right? And it's always in arrears. That's okay. But it
Mm-hmm.
will tell you what happened. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really a reliable way of looking at, what is the debt in the business? How much are you actually paying yourself, right? It won't hide things from you. It's all
Right.
there, right in plain sight. So I tried to make that even easier. And
Mm-hmm.
I also included, Gordon, 3 chapters on troubleshooting the instant assessment. Again, just because of all of our experience in Profit First Academy, where are the places that people get stuck? And that's often in moments of transition in a practice, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, moving from a solo practice to hiring your first employee. That's a big change, right? If you're going from 1 to 2 people, you're doubling the business essentially. Yeah, it's normal
Right.
for things to change and the business to need something different. What if you have 12 clinicians and you lose 5 in one single week? I don't wish that on anyone, but we've seen that happen
Mm-hmm.
a lot in the
Oh,
last couple of
sure.
years, right?
Sure.
Like
Uh-huh.
sometimes that happens. So how do you course correct? Of course, what was working with 12 clinicians no longer is true with 7, right? You probably
Mm-hmm.
have infrastructure that's built for a much larger team. So how do you adjust both temporarily and long term, right? So what are some of the things that
Mm-hmm.
you do in the immediate, right? Like this weekend versus what are the next 90 days going to look like? So I wanted to go through some really detailed examples in some of those situations. I have an example for a transition from an LLC to an S corporation, because that's something that comes up
Mm-hmm.
often,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it makes sense and you want to do it, but then there's the mechanics of like, well, now I'm on payroll. How do all of these pieces work together? So I just wanted to go over a lot more detail, adding a revenue stream, right? What does that look like? It's not just your practice anymore. There's other things going on,
Mm-hmm.
fluctuating income, fluctuating cash flow. What do you do and how do you adjust the system? And so I wanted that to just be really clear and provide more examples and also ways to reflect on what's going on in the business as well.
Right, right. And I know one of the things, a big struggle, the biggest expense I would say for any practice is what you pay your people,
Yes.
and really having some clear understanding of, okay, what is, what is fair to
Hmm.
pay them, but also what is sustainable to pay them. And I know you and I have talked about this numerous
Yeah.
times about the mistakes I made early on
You're
of just
in the
really,
book. You're in the book
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, it's real easy to let those of us that are therapists, we really do have a big heart for people, and we really want to treat our people well. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of times we will make the mistake of, oh, well, I want to treat them well. I want to be generous. I want to make this a great place to work and pay fairly. But if you don't do it the right way and you don't understand the numbers and what is really realistic, you can very quickly dig a hole for yourself with
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually get a decent amount of online hate for saying that you cannot overpay your clinicians. So I get some nasty
Interesting.
messages. Yeah. And yet, Gordon, I'm still going to keep fighting the good fight, right? And I suspect that most of the messages come from people who have worked at an agency or a group practice and that they feel like they
Hmm.
are not being paid enough, right? And
Hmm.
that's valid. And
Yeah.
I will be the first to say the industry as a whole is not paid enough, right? The
Hmm.
reimbursement rates for
Hmm.
mental health are not enough. Period. Full stop. You have my full support there. And yet that doesn't give us a pass on math, right? And if
Hmm.
you're building a business, it is in service to no one to build a business where you're going to have to remortgage your house to keep it open and
Hmm.
lose everything that you have. And I've seen that happen, unfortunately,
Hmm.
right? If it doesn't get corrected in time, like a practice owner could literally go bankrupt trying to, just the hole just keeps getting bigger and bigger and harder to get out of. And they
Hmm.
start taking, the business equivalent of payday loans with a 34% interest rate. I saw that just yesterday. My team was mentioning that. Like those
Hmm.
exist out there, but you take that loan to save you, today because payroll is due in 2 days, and it is a hole that just is very, very difficult to get out of because you need so much more money to get out of it.
Hmm.
So I just think it's in service to everyone if you can set up a structure that is fair to your team. You're
Hmm.
no matter what you pay your team, they're never going to feel like they're overpaid, right? That's probably never going to be, and in any industry, they're never going to say like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, they pay me too much. I don't deserve it. No, they're always going
Hmm.
to want more in any industry that you look at. But the business has to be able to turn a profit. Like that's just how capitalism works, like it or not.
Right.
And
Hmm.
even nonprofits work that way, right? I know you're involved with many nonprofits. Like ultimately, a
Right.
nonprofit has to generate more revenue than they spend, or else they will
Yes,
also
absolutely. Yeah.
not survive, right? So it might
Hmm.
not be taxable income, or you might not call it profit, but they still have to bring in more money than the money that goes out. That's just how
Right.
math works. And
Right.
so we've got to be able to set up a practice in a way that will be overall sustainable. And I just believe that's in service to the clinicians because then that means they have a job next week, next month, next year. It's in service
Right.
to your clients because the practice remains open and can still continue to have a high impact on the community, right? If your business closes and you burn out and you go, be a cashier at Trader Joe's because that feels easier and you make more money than you did in private practice, that helps no one.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's real easy to, I know, like you told about in your book, the story that I had around, I realized that what I was paying my people was too much to
Hmm.
sustain it. And I was having to pay them out of what I was making in order to sustain the payroll. And
Yeah.
so again, it's, yeah, something that
Yeah.
you have
I
to
mean, let's talk
have
about
to
that a little
learn.
bit more because like you were seeing
Hmm.
more clients
Hmm.
to generate revenue so that you could pay your team members, right? You were not even seeing
Hmm.
that revenue. You were working harder as a group
Right.
practice owner
Hmm.
so that you could pay your team members. And that
Hmm.
is so backwards, but you were definitely not alone in that. So many people end up in that spot by accident, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And actually what the the end of that story, or the redemption of that story, is I went back and reworked everything, moved from having contractors to having
Hmm.
employees. They actually benefited more because now they were getting benefits that they didn't
Yeah.
have before. They were paying less taxes than what they were having to pay before. And what I was paying them was a sustainable number for the practice based on the actual numbers of what was coming in and what was going out. And so, yeah. And so rather than just coming up with some kind of random percentage, which is what I did.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. A lot of times, like we're recording this in 2025. A lot of times I see new group practice owners in Facebook groups saying, "Hey, I'm hiring my first person. How much should I pay them?" And like people chime in, right, with various opinions, their own context, and it terrifies me to see that because you never know
Hmm.
what's actually going on behind that, right? Someone might say, "Oh, I'm paying my person 70% or 80%." I mean, I've actually seen 100%, which is insane.
Hmm.
But what the while they're sharing this information, they're not saying, have you have you made any money this year? Are you paying yourself? Right? Because
Hmm.
it's basically impossible. With an 80% split, there is no room, right? I will say like
Right.
80% cannot work in any circumstance. It just can't.
Hmm.
80%, especially as a W-2, ends up costing you close to 90%. There's no room left for overhead, let alone any profit. Like it's not possible to
Right.
make that work.
Right.
And yet there are people offering that on a
Right.
regular basis. And
Hmm.
I don't know how they're going to make it. I hope they have the secret trust fund somewhere to sustain this
Hmm.
practice because like the numbers don't work.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and so profit, yeah, getting back to our, profit first really helps with that, in that, based on your experience, Julie, of working with different size practices
Yeah.
over a long period of time, of knowing if you've got this size practice, then your allocation for employees should be at about this percentage.
Yes.
And you know, and as you go up in the numbers of people, of course that changes some, but still it's based on the numbers.
Yeah. And all that is in the book too, right? We hide
Hmm.
nothing. So in the book, we will give you allocations for operating expenses, which is really overhead, right? Your rent,
Hmm.
software, all the costs to running your business, phone, fax, whatever. We give you allocations for clinician compensation. So that's
Hmm.
wages, payroll tax, and benefits. Like where does that need to be to make sense? For administrative compensation. So that would be either your biller intake, right? Whatever positions you have,
Hmm.
virtual assistant, all those can go under there. We have leadership as well. So leadership typically doesn't show up until about $1 million in annual revenue, but usually at that point you need site supervisor, clinical director, right? Not someone that's 100% leadership. They're still
Hmm.
holding a clinical load, but they're doing some leadership work. And then we have also allocations for how much you pay yourself as the owner, how much you're saving for taxes, and then profit as well, right? And profit ends up having double duty. It's part emergency fund and part reward, right? So
Uh-huh.
typically what we do is that you contribute to that profit account, and they're all different bank accounts. Typically you're going to have either 5 or 6 separate business bank accounts in the business, 5 for solo practices, 6 for group practices. And on a regular basis, you're going to move money to those business bank accounts based on that percentage, right? So that you always
Right.
know this is how much I have to spend for overhead or operating expenses. This is how much is available for, all the different things. So what we have a lot of folks do is, for example, build a balance in their owner's pay account to cover there's sick time, right? As the owner, you don't officially get sick time, but you're probably going to get sick at some point and have to
Uh-huh.
cancel or, take a vacation, right? Like all those things so that you can still pay yourself during that time. We've had clients pad that account for a maternity leave, so they're still able to pay themselves while they're on leave, right? And so when we look at that profit account, money is going to build over time. At the end of each quarter, you leave half of the money in there as an emergency account, right? Just in case something
Mm-hmm.
happens, because in small business, things will happen. And then you take the rest of it home as a reward. And so with that, can take your, spouse, friend, family out for a nice dinner. You can go on a little weekend getaway. I've had clients use it for like a Rolex fund or a house fund or whatever
Mm-hmm.
a Gucci bag fund, like whatever is the thing that you want to reward yourself with, knock yourself out. That is like extra money, right? Above and
Right.
beyond what it takes to
Mm-hmm.
run your household. I'm curious to hear from you, Gordon. What's the funnest thing that you've done with your profit money?
Well, this past year, I mean, in August, I went to Scotland, did some
Yes,
traveling,
you have been doing a lot of
and then I've
globetrotting.
got a trip to Patagonia planned
Amazing.
January. So
Okay.
yeah.
I love
So
that. Yeah. Like what a fun thing where you get this kind of bonus from the business. Like, what are we going
yes,
to do with it? This is,
yeah,
I mean, how
right,
rewarding.
yeah,
And business ownership is not easy, right? It's not
right.
for the faint of
Uh-huh.
heart. And so you should be rewarded for the hard work
Yeah.
that you
Oh,
put in,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Julie, I guess we better keep an eye on our time, but
Yes,
and you and I, as usual, we could spend hours talking about all this
we could.
stuff, kind of like we did before we even started recording. So, but yeah, just catching up. But tell folks the best way to get the book and how to get in touch with you.
Yes, absolutely. So for the book, you can go to profitfirstfortherapists.com. It's also available. It's in paperback only because I want you to be able to write in it, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is 8.5 by 11. So it's really meant to be read, with Post-its, with a pen, so you can write directly in it. It is sold everywhere that books are sold online. So Amazon, Barnes
Mm-hmm.
and Noble, a lot of the online websites will have it. You can also go to
Mm-hmm.
profitfirstfortherapists.com and get access to the resources from that are within the book as well, and it will send you directly to Amazon also.
Right.
Depending on when you're listening, like it's going to be available for you, and you can get the resources on the website.
Right, right. And I set up a pretty link that takes folks directly to Amazon, and it's just
Perfect.
simply practice of therapy.com/profit first workbook. And
Amazing.
so if you go to if you've been getting those that are on my email list, they've already been getting those links sent to them and
Yes.
everything. So, but
Perfect.
and it's a great deal, but folks, it's just $15. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just yeah, and I hope that I'm going to encourage Julie to double the price because it's more than that.
All right, get it while you can, while it's still
Yeah, yeah,
$15,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. So, yeah. Well, Julie, again, is glad to have you. So good to talk with you on the podcast, and folks, check out her book and also her podcast, Therapy for Your Money,
Therapy for your money.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
and
for that.
it's
I talk about all things money, right? You've been a frequent guest on the podcast as
mhm.
well. We're in season 6 already. It's all
Wow.
financial topics for private practice, right? So
Yeah.
if you've got to worry about money in your practice, like there's
hmm
probably an episode that talks about it on
Right,
therapy for your
right. And
money.
also I'll say just a quick plug for that podcast and this one are both part of the Psychcraft Network, the
Yes.
podcasts.
Yes. Gordon, one thing I want to mention is the book is launching on October 21st. So for anyone who pre-orders or orders in that first week, we have a really amazing freebie available. As if it wasn't always already a good deal, right? $15
Right,
for the
right.
workbook. If you order in the first week, you get access to a free book club that starts on October 24th. So if you go to profitfirstfortherapists.com/workbook, you can register for the book club, get that bonus. It's a 3-week book club with me where we're going to go over some of the chapters in the workbook. You're going to have homework. It's like a real book club, right? You're going to do the work
hmm
at home, and then we're going to talk about it in the book club and discuss it and troubleshoot. So definitely take advantage of that freebie and just order in launch week so you can get access to it starting on the 24th, and this for 3 Fridays in a row.
Right, right. And we'll have links there in the show notes and the show summary. And like I said earlier, if you're on my mailing list, you'll get notifications about this anyway. But and also Julie's. I know Julie has an email list as
Yeah.
well for Profit First for Therapists. Be sure and check it out.